aqueous solution. All right, surrounded by aqueous solution. So understanding that the environment dictates the nature of the cell is all really based on water and the minerals and everything that is involved in it. Um, Let me go ahead and cut this new Kendrick right here. This is the Heart Part 5 where he talks about culture and how basically he really dives into the nature, and you hear it a lot of it in our hip hop songs. The hip hop songs already and really always dictates the culture. All right. Yeah, so I lost it because of the music. So I cut the music anyway, but I'm back at you. Okay, so the culture dictates the mood, the presence, the setting, the environment, okay, to which a cell is brought up in. The reason why these things are important for us is because um, as we consume this world around us, we start to consume basically what our environment is as natural, organic organisms that we are. We have to be immersed into and connected to the earth, the environment, in order for our natural progression. See, the thing is that as living organisms, we are moving at a rate and at a speed that is detrimental to our health because we're utilizing so many of the resources so rapidly, faster than what Mother Nature can process. Mother Nature gets everything done and accomplished in the time, be it, but the organisms is trying to move faster than the Creator itself, right? And with that comes disease, comes disconnection, and those things are really crucial for our health and well-being, right? Because whether we sacrifice now, the price comes that we have to pay is later, all right? And I get to this because understanding the mitochondria of the cell. So everything is energy, right? And a lot of terms are always used to describe the mitochondria of the cell as the powerhouse of the cell, right? But the mitochondria is an organism, right, that's found home inside of another cell, right, which was basically a symbiosis. Okay, so our culture is dictated to basically as a matrix, all right, as a matrix that powers different systems. Okay, so how the mitochondria basically came to being was you had one organism that was anaerobic and another cell that was aerobic, right? And based on the environment, in order for it to survive, it had to come together. Okay, so one found refuge in the host of another cell. Okay, so with that happening, you actually created a sustainable life for cellular organisms, right? Because one was literally creating um, energy for the other one to actually keep on. This is why we go through cellular respiration, right? Because at one point this earth was uninhabitable, right? Because there was no oxygen on it, right? So for that cell to live, it actually went inside of another cell, right? So this is why cellular respiration is so important and how we transfer these things over towards energy. Okay. Now, if you look at how we're continuously progressing, we're progressing from um, the on a what's the word that I want to look for? Uh, I can't think of right off term. I can't really think of it right now. A quantum on a quantum level, right? On a cellular level, we're basically going inside and we're doing some time traveling. Okay, so um, the mitochondria is literally inside of a cell, and we represent that cell. Okay, because the cell continues to go on a matrix after matrix, which we continue to be trapped in, right? And I'm gonna show you where I'm actually going with this, right? Because we're cell organisms, right? That is powered by the mitochondria of our cells. So as us as cellular organisms, we're connected to our outside environment, and that outside environment dictates the nature of who and what we are. Because as we go in, we power other systems, right? We go to work, we power that system. We hop in our car, we power that system. We go home, we power our home system. Okay. But now what's going on now is now we're then, so that was the first disconnection, is what I want to say. That was the first disconnection where we started, not the first, but one of the disconnections, I should say, because we removed ourselves from the outside environment, but yet we were still eating okay. But then after the World War, where you started to have the Industrial Revolution and the evolution of things, the nature of plants and soil and food began to speed up. And when that thing started to speed up, we started to become disconnected. And then a lot of diseases started to become prevalent. Wasn't right then immediately, but it started to affect us later on. And it affects us a lot today, right? So what I'm saying is, as we start to go into this technology evolution, this technical, we're literally putting ourselves inside of another matrix, right? Which is the computer, okay? Which is all our lives is going on the computer right now at this point in time. So now we're going to start to become disconnected even more from what Mother Nature actually has for us, right? And this is going to bring forth new and up and coming diseases that is going to plague our community. The reason why I say that is because what we're doing now is more of a selfish type of nature, because you hear a lot of self-help books. There's a lot of things talking about self-wealth, self-generational wealth, all these different types of things, these euphemisms that they're putting out there and making people feel good about collecting a lot of money. And what it's doing is literally deteriorating our next generation because of the sacrifice which we want to have and we should have now. Our next generation is going to have to pay for it with sickness and disease. Okay. And I'm saying that because when the industrial age came about, it came about and it started breaking down our homes. It started breaking down and separating us from the natural and the organic ways of which our life was, right? And the reason how I get into this really is because of water. Water is one of those things that's starting to separate us, right? As we start to really dive into what water is, right? You're separating water because water is either natural spring water, you have distilled water, you have purified water, right? And these things are becoming, not all water is created equal. So water is a major connection because whether you believe in the Bible or any of that type of thing, it's first on this planet, right? And that is what energy passes through different mediums. So even as it passes through the air, there's water in the atmosphere. Otherwise, your lungs would be dry, right? So this is a major connection for the spirit and for energy to actually move through, right? So as we breathe, right, we breathe in that fresh oxygen, and literally that cellular respiration goes all the way into that mitochondria of the cell and gives it life to give us and power our life, right? But now, as we start to go into this technology world, we're becoming more disconnected from the things that are actually going to be able to give us life. So then we're going to start to become more dependent on the resources of man versus the resources of God. All right. And we're literally trading, and this happened all throughout history. We found different gods to actually worship more so than the creator. And it always came at a price. All right. And whether we believe Muhammad or anybody that actually have given their life, the life goes on, right? But all energy is trapped within matter. So you have to pass, all right? And there's nothing to be fearful about death, right? Because Western society makes death look like um, look scary, right? But it's literally the leveling up and going in on and passing on to a cyclical nature, right? Where you're going to the next level, okay? Understanding that we're stars and we want our stars in the sky, we're made up of stardust, right? So in order to dictate to the nature of the culture, we have to go outside of ourselves in order to put the work into the ground, into the soil, into our community, in order to make that change, right? A lot of times I hear we have to go within the body, we have to go within self. You can't create change unless you put the change in yourself first. Well, in order to dictate the nature of change, because change is dictated to by the conditions. If it's raining outside, that condition is going to make you put on a jacket. If it's cold outside, you're going to put on a jacket. If it's hot, you're going to put on some shorts. So the conditions literally dictates the nature of what a cell does, right? So it's very, very important. No matter if you want to relate to a Buddhist monk does not go through its environment in the city. All right, it is removed from that type of environment into a more peaceful, serene location where it is able to strengthen its mind and so forth in order for it to be able to develop the strengths that it has. All right, this is what I'm saying about the culture. The culture has to change because the culture is being dictated to by the music, being dictated to by the media, it's being dictated to by the people around us, right? Because we have a herd type mentality. And when you start talking about sales, there's power in numbers, right? So if the numbers starts to believe in something, then you're going to get it, or your kids or someone else is going to get it by default, all right? Because it impacts the community, all right? So in order to change those things, we have to go within our community and start to change those things hands on. And I can just give you the definition of what a culture is, right? So if you look up the word culture, as far as biology, because I always deal with biological terms, right? Because these are things that, um, most of us can really kind of relate to. You look it up and it says maintain tissue cells, bacteria, and conditions suitable for growth, right? But we want to know, what is that growth suitable for? Is it suitable for the environment and for man? Or is it suitable for you? Or is it suitable for God, the creator? All right. These are the things that we're talking about as far as maintain, because maintain means to keep a status quo, right? To maintain, to keep with. Okay. So if you're setting the culture, right, and the things that influence the culture is the music, the vibration, the arts, the language, many of those things that are dictated to the culture, it literally sets a revolution involving how we move forward. All right, so always want to tie everything into the music first, because the music, understand that vibrations move faster in water, right? And we are water. So because we are water beings, that water actually resonates with our community. It resonates with our environment. When we separate from that environment, we lose connectivity, okay? And then we get those diseases and so forth, things that infect us moving forward. And it hurts us. It hurts us truly. It hurts our community. It hurts our culture. Um, and these are many of the things that I see now, and like I see it just as moving through what is as water, right? Because water moves through so many different aspects of life. Okay. Um, I don't know if anybody got any questions or anything like that. Please feel free to chime in. This is a open discussion, so I definitely want to get any some involvement going on. If you got any questions about the culture, because there's a lot going on with the culture right now. You see people with a lot of gold chains and things like that, which are dictating the culture of our civilization, of saying that we need more in order to do more, where it's a misconception of that, because you can literally do more with less. If you have less responsibilities, you're able to give of yourself more into the community. And that's one of those things that I think a lot of us wants to do anyway. We want to give of ourselves, but we're limited and we're tied and we're bonded to so many different material things. And every time you're tied into material things, it ties up your energy. It bonds you into being restricted, right? Because energy is stored within matter, all right? And those are chemical bonds, right? So these are all things that you can actually go, recognize with, right? Let me see what you got, Beehive Salon. Competition is keeping people down. Correct. That is definitely showing up in the music, right? And you notice that because back in the day, music was the artists were more in tune with the creation of it, and it wasn't powered by the money. And because it wasn't powered by the money, you understood that there was something there that was natural, that was organic, and people loved it. When people love it, you create a magnetism and people are drawn to it. You retain information. This is one of those things that water does as well. It retains information, right? And it passes it on to other living organisms, and you vibrate the same, right? But when the music is dictated to by a culture that is pushing money based on the looks, the appeal, right? Then I have to think to myself, and just thinking as kids, it makes it harder to push forward because now you're sitting there thinking about, okay, I have to acquire this much wealth or this much riches in order to obtain what ultimately we want is freedom, right? And what it ends up turning out to is only liberty. It's never freedom. This is why you have rich people or wealthy people end up committing suicide and not being fully happy and still having mental health issues because it's not the wealth, it's not the riches, right? And we're substituting the metals and those materialistic things for minerals, right? Because we're minerally deprived, we're resources deprived, right? Because those things help to balance our life, right? Minerals help to balance the living cell, okay? And there's different types of minerals. So we'll have different types of vices that we're looking to help equalize the pain, right? But if you try to plain cut it across the board and saying everybody wants this or everybody needs this is one of those things why they didn't want to go into a global currency is because every continent, every country, we don't all have the same value of money, right? And we don't have all the same, we don't all identify wealth the same way. So what that does is create a separatism. It creates separatists in the world where now you have classes and you create classisms with that wealth, right? And what that does is cut people out, and then it leaves them to be acidic in their condition, which means that they're going to do things that are not supportive or not uh, conducive to the health of either society or their self, right? Because people are going to do it but by any means, right? In order to neutralize the pain, in order to feel, we're going to smoke, we're going to drink, we're going to buy things, we're going to do things to help us to feel at ease, to help us to numb the pain. You know, and those things are called trips, right? When you do drugs, you take a trip, right? And if you're stuck within an environment that you cannot move outside of, right, like a free radical, right, exactly right, right? So those things, in order to neutralize a free radical, that's a give and take, right? So you need antioxidants. Antioxidants give freely to free radicals to help neutralize them, right? So that they don't cause disruption for the body. That is exactly correct, right? So those are one of the things that actually literally understanding that there are givers and takers in this world, and just because somebody is taken just means that they haven't fully fulfilled or met their need or their worth, right? That we're all looking for, and it's crucial because the culture is going to continue producing what it is, which is sickness and disease, and that sickness and disease makes us rely on more medicine, which is one of the reasons why they probably legalized marijuana and weed at this point in time, right? Because you know, the more that we're medicated, the more that we're on drugs, um, the more that you're able to push things underneath the radar and affect the subconscious, because the subconscious is the thing that's driving the mind. It's not the consciousness, right? We live in this world that puts us into a subconscious trance, which lets us occupy basically the space that we're in, and we're creating things that we don't even know that we're creating, you know, and we're moving forward with things that we don't even know that's affecting the next generation because we're only looking at self. Self is always pushed and promoted on the forefront of everything. And that's why I say the sacrifice has to come from self first in order to push forward. Um, you know, plant medicines have a consciousness through that is intelligent. If used as medicine and not as a numbing agent, correct, right? Yep. And I know you know this, you know, because you tuned in and you dialed in, right? So, you know, that's 100% correct, right? So what they do, how they get the medicine, They get it and they derive it from plant, right? The concentration. But the concentration is in a form that our body um, doesn't really understand how to take it, right? Because it's not in its natural form. It's not in an organic form to where our body consumes it and say, oh, I know what that is. I know where to put that at, right? Because our body takes and consumes it, it kind of knows what it is, but it doesn't. It's not really sure. And if it's not really sure what it does, it actually puts it either into our fat cells where it stores it at, right, to protect our organs because it doesn't quite know what it is, and it waits for water to actually come through and flush it out, or it becomes a tumor, or any of those types of things. So when the body doesn't know quite what to do with it, it's going to hold it off, or it's going to try to flush it out the system because it doesn't know. And then that's usually where we get byproducts of medications, right? Those medications start to affect our thinking, our way of life, because our body doesn't know what it is. And anytime you get something that you don't know what it is, or you find something you're not quite sure what this is or what this goes to, what you do? You put it off to the side and it's like, man, I know this goes to something. I'm not quite sure what this goes to. I'm going to just put it in this junk drawer right now until I figure it out because I don't quite want to throw it away. And then next thing you know, you're moving, and then you got a whole collection of things that you hadn't got rid of yet. That's the body. That's the body when we continue to keep putting foreign things that the body doesn't know what it is, and we continue to keep consuming. And the more we keep consuming, you basically, the outside world literally represents the inside nature, right? Because if you look around, you have a lot of storage places that's coming about right now. And if you notice, the new homes that's being built, you don't get quite as much storage space in those homes right now, right? So you have to be able to get a storage unit that actually store and occupy most of those things, right? Because we hate to throw things away, one, two, or give them away, right? So we're bonded, we're connected to those material things, and guess what that does? It holds and stores energy because we can't release that into for other people to actually have, right? And it stops the trickle down effect. Okay, this is why we're competing for so much down here, and at the top, in that top 1%, they do a lot of things just based off GP handshakes. Business owners. I'm pretty sure that they don't pass off as much money. They do more giving than anything, right? Because they already have the money at that point in time. So they'll do it off of a handshake and partnerships and collaborations. And then, when the thing starts to become profitable, then they go ahead and say, hey, look, all right, we're going to do this split. I'm going to give you this amount. We can get this amount. And then that's how they start to be able to grow. This is the mindset that we have to do to start to change our culture within business. We look for money so much up front, and we nickel and dime ourselves where it literally doesn't affect the wealthy in that way. And you can look at your stars, as they get different gifts from Louis Vuitton and Vera Wang. They don't even pay for that stuff anymore, right? They'll get that stuff for free, but we have to be the ones to pay for those things because those are the ones that is dictating to our culture, right? We see that, and it affects our environment as they sell. And we look at, rappers with not one gold chain, but they put on 5 to 7 to 8 different gold chains, right, to show their worth, right? And then we're thinking to ourselves like, yo, that's what we have to obtain, right? And once again, we're talking about metals, we're talking about minerals, we're talking about alloys. These are the things that naturally capture a sale because this is what we're drawn to. You know what I mean? If you break down that metal on that elements chart, we understand that each organ associates differently with different types of metals, right? And I can always put it back to water. What you say? Push the notify me tab. What's that? I don't even know what that is, cuzzo. Push the notify me tab. I don't know where that's at. I'm kind of new to this thing, man. Um, but if anybody want to actually again relook at this video, I will be posting it on our YouTube page, which is Family Springs Water Matter, Mater. That's Water Matter. All right, so let me see. All right, losing connection, seeing the connection gets weak from time to time, right? So, like I said, with the connection getting weak from time to time, just make sure you go ahead and check it out, man, and pass it along. I'm talking to the chat room, Cuzzo. Oh, okay. All right, I got you, Cuzzo. All right. So yeah. So with the culture being dictated to by those different types of resources that we look at, it's controlling us, you know, in a sense, man, and it's making it more of a uphill battle, right, for fighting for our next generation because um, those people are in the limelight and they're literally controlling, you know what I mean, our youth, right? Which is who our youth look up. If our youth looks up to them, you know, at some point, then they drive in our culture, right? So I can also break that down into forms of light, right? So you understand that minerals actually hold energy, right? And we're talking about light energy, right? So if you understand that water possesses potential energy and light actually it's either reflected or it refracts, right? Through different types of medium. So as light is trapped within minerals, it gives out a gas, right? Well, light is a gas and it gives off and is trapped. Uh, Let me see what am I saying. It traps the light and it reflects the gas that is trapped right through the mineral, right? So you have different types of gemstones that reflect different types of light, right? Based on what is trapped. Same thing with your fruit, your food. Your fruits are different types of colors. That's why we have to have a wide range of different vegetables and fruit, right? Because when we eat different fruits and vegetables, it's different types of minerals that are within those different types of fruits, which means that they go to different parts of our organs, right? And those different types of organs are needed because not every cell eats the same thing, just like we do. Not everybody's a vegan, not everybody's Presbyterian, not everybody needs something different. And what one person eat may get sick and can't eat the other thing, right? That somebody else can eat. So this is the same thing that's going on within our body. This is why we need a wide range, right? Water is one of those things that flows through all these different things. So this is why it's important for us to stay connected to spring water and to those different types of things because that mineral content, the water content, actually provides life for the cell. Okay, and the further we become disconnected to those things, the further we go into another matrix, it literally becomes game over because now we're talking about engineering, right? And we're talking about giving up the engineering of Mother Nature, right? That it literally affects the culture of a cell, is literally becoming affected by the water that we drink in on a let's say on a mechanical level. When we start drinking machine type water, you know, and I don't want to be throwing too many darts at the machine, but understanding that water is literally the building block, right, of DNA, right, because it literally bonds our DNA together. So when you have spring water, natural spring water that is coming from the mountains and gathering information from its environment, right, then we then consume, right, for energy. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And when we consume that, it's going within our cell and it's providing energy, right? And it's building up the nature of our cell, our building blocks, our health, right? Because we're tuned in, we're dialed in, right, to other bacteria, other living organisms, right? It's all about communication, right? But when we're not communicated, we're drinking water from a machine, right? That is, man, it's always trying to replicate something else, right? And there's a reason why, right? Because we become more dependent on that. And when we become dependent on that, there's always a byproduct, right? So it's always a side effect, right? Because you don't possess everything, and we're not going to be able to get everything in the nature of what man creates, right? Because so it's always something else that's going to become a problem. And through that machine, whether they put in different types of minerals, you're going to get different types of minerals from different types of the planet, right? Even not even different types. Let's say within the state that you're in, or within the nation that you're in, depending on the soil, right? Because you understand that soil is made up of water, air, rock. What else it is? It's something else I can't forget right offhand, but the soil is made up of many different parts of the world of the environment, right? So as water trickle downs and it becomes gets into those aquifers, it is literally possessing that energy and that information, right? Which plant life consumes, which is why we consume plants, which is why we drink natural water, And at a point in time, we will actually bathe in spring water, right? Which means that our living membrane, right? The largest brain of our body is our skin, okay? Our skin literally creates and dictates the environment to which you can burn your skin up and you can die, right? Because it's a literal membrane, okay? So it takes hold of whatever the environment is and it affects the conditions of the cells within the body, right? So the cell within your body has a couple ways of actually understanding what this outside world is and how we perceive it. It's either through how we eat and through our immediate surroundings, okay? And then that's what gives information to the brain, right? So the brain has absolutely no way of knowing what's going on unless the conditions is dictated to by the skin, okay, or by the food that we consume. These things are very, very important, man, on how we continue to grow and how we move our culture moving forward. The more influence that we have on these things, the more that we're able to be able to control the nature of who we are, what we are, and who we're going to be in our next life. Because once again, remember, it's cyclical, it's cycle. It goes around and it goes around. So, we don't necessarily die. We just pass on to the next life, right? Or we go up to the next level, right? And that next level may be looking like we may be going into the technology world. So right now we're outside the computer, but that next life when we pass, we may be inside the computer, okay? So this is why it's important to form these connections now. If we don't start to formulate and build our connections now, when we die and we go into this next world or inside this computer system, we're literally going to be disconnected and from inside the computer as well. These things are super duper important on how we continue to move forward. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit of water, but I want you to understand that this is our culture that we're involved in, and we're looking at making a change now, right? And that change that we have to make now is literally based on the sacrifices that we are able to make now, so that we can have a better future. You got any questions? Anybody got any questions about anything? That's good. All right. And I want you to want me to. The music is very, very big for us, and it talks to the nature. It talks to us. I wanted to touch into stem cells as well a little bit, and I'm gonna do some reels as well. So definitely hit the little Instagram button and follow us, because I'm gonna do some reels and I'm gonna do some more explanation to the world around us and draw a connection to everything, right? Because you have STEM schools that's coming out: science, technology, engineering, and math, right? Well, let me see. I'm going to give you a definition of what a stem cell. Stem cells are defined as precursor cells that have the capacity to self-renew and to generate multiple mature cell types. Okay? So, when you say that's interesting about us possibly living in the computer, yeah, Kazo, that's exactly right. You know what I mean? You missed the part where I literally talked about the mitochondria of the cell. So, every time we go into um, we talk about the mitochondrial matrix, right? Well, those were two different living organisms, right? Before it became a mitochondria, you had an anaerobic cell and you had an aerobic cell, right? A bacteria. And then the world didn't have oxygen at one point in time, right? So as the environment starts to change, the nature of the cells then change, right? According to what the environment is. And it's known all throughout science or whatever, however you want to believe it, right? So when those two came together, it created the mitochondria, right? Because one was able to live within the other, right? And when it was able to live within the other, the whole cell, it was like, oh, I can live and get and eat everything that I need, get everything that I need, which was a culture, right? Because the culture is literally the maintaining of tissue cells, bacteria, and a condition suitable for growth, right? So if you find yourself in a suitable condition to which you can live in, why would you leave it, right? So the mitochondria is literally an organism living within a cell, right, which lives and learn to power the cell, right? And it has a symbiosis, a relationship with one another, right? So now all those cells are within and make us who we are, which is a bigger living cell, right? Cells make tissues, tissues form organs, organs go into becoming an organ system, which will give you an organism, right? That makes us. So now we adapt to our environment, right? At one point in time, we were all outside consuming the environment, the nature. Then we went inside the work facility, inside, removed ourselves from the sunlight. Then we powered the work system from within our house, right? So we have our homes, then we power our cars, then we power our work economy, right? Those are three different things that removed us, right? And then it changed because we got into the industrial age, it changed the food, all right? The food that we ate, because once again, we sped everything up, right? In order to keep up with the economy, right? So as everything sped up, then we started to get a whole lot more diseases that started to become prevalent, right? It didn't affect it immediately, but it affected us down the line, right? As they started creating different types of soil and fertilizer, right, to create for farming, right? Now we see the byproducts of these things now, right? So now as we're going into this technological age, right, and the age of information, now everything is going to be into the computer, where we're going to find another different type of separation from our outside world, from our environment, right? Every time we move away from the environment, it creates a different type of disease. It creates a different type of environment because it's a different type of disconnection that we're having, right? Water is literally the last thing that is literally connecting us, right? Natural spring water is literally the last, and it was the first thing, right? So let's not get creative, whether we believe in Bible, anything, man. This earth was created, and we already know that there is water above us and there's water below us, okay? So, and it moves in a cycle, okay? And it's a part of the ecosystem, and it balances our earth. These are all things that we know, right? So as we continue to be a part of that water cycle, this is why Family Springs and what we're building is so important, because what we're doing is putting our business and involving it into the water system. When we put your business into the water system, now we're able to live more freely. Now we're able to move with the flow of currency. Now we're able to move at the path of least resistance, because that's how water moves. We have to move as water do. When we don't move as water do, we lose our energy, right? Because anytime you go against the grain, you go against that, it takes energy in order to do so, right? And then it causes stress, and that stress causes dehydration, and dehydration causes further stress within the body. All those different things are literally killing us inside, right? So what we're trying to do is basically change the environment, change the conditions to which we live in, through our water principles, through Waternomics, which this is. As we start to create a different culture, a different type of mindset, then we're able to impact our communities differently, right? And that's literally what that is about. And this is literally the same game to which the government is playing, right? Or because they understand that we're cellular organisms and how we move, right? So that's why you got, once again, I get back to stem cells, right? And you have STEM schools right now, which they say science, technology, engineering, and math, right? In order to put us into the next transition, right? Into the next evolution. So they have to prepare the kids to get into this next evolution. So now you get stem cells. And stem cells within your body, they literally adapt or become whatever that culture or whatever it is, that is surrounded in, right? So you can take a stem cell and put it into a muscle environment, muscle tissue environment. Guess what it's going to create? Muscle tissue. You take it and put it into your heart cells. It's going to create different types of heart cells. You know what I mean? The cells within your heart. You know what I mean? Any type. Stem cells are very, very important because they can, once again, and don't take my word, look up stem cells. And I'm going to give you the definition. Stem cells are cells with the potential to develop into many different types of cells in the body. They serve as a repair system for the body. There are two main types of stem cells: embryonic stem cells and adult stem cells. Okay? So this is why it's important to understand the world around us, because the world around us literally replicates and duplicates the system going on within our body. This is why knowledge itself is so important. But if I keep you busy working, keep you busy and looking at all the other things, then you lose that connection of knowing thyself and knowing how they relate to us, and then we become lost in the sauce and dictated to, and then we just move as they do, you know. And that's a part of, knowing who we are and what we are, and understanding that connection. All right. I don't know if y'all got anything else. I don't know how long. This has actually been 42 minutes. I don't want to hold y'all up all evening, but if y'all have anything else on it tonight, once again, I will be putting this up on our YouTube channel, which is Family Springs Water Matter. So you can actually refer people to go back to this if they got any questions. We'll answer any questions. But we always here every Tuesday at 7, where we talk about waternomics and different things, how water moves through our environment and through our economy, and then we look to solve these things through our Family Springs bottled water. We're more than just a bottled water company. We're actually a solution to many of our problems that we actually are facing, whether it's business, whether it's health, and we're just trying to find complete balance, right? And a system that is going to be literally designed for us, all right? So